Everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. You guys know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want you fired up about my guest. I'll be spending time with Miche Christie today, and we're talking about her book, Muse Yourself. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Miche. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Dr. Angela. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Now, as is tradition around here, we always give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves. There may be some folks out there that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So first question to you is, what makes you you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I go into depth in my book about myself, but briefly here I'll just let you know I had a career in the military. I have a beautiful little family, my daughter Alexa and my wife Lisa. And after my military career, I found myself looking for answers and for some emotional healing. And hypnotherapy, along with some other resources, helped me to discover that I have a passion for the healing arts. And this book is my attempt to reach out and share what I've learned. And because I figured it helped me, it could help others. I hope so anyway.
And, I think that that's what the majority of people that come on the show, I think that's their goal, is to share their story, share the knowledge that they've gained along the way with others out there so that they, too, can be empowered. So I definitely understand that. Now, being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that this was simply one of the best ways to share your gift with the world?
Well, honestly, I did think about being an author, but I thought I always thought I would write about my life and my experiences and things like that. I never imagined I'd be putting together a book to help people to heal. This came out of the blue. I was as surprised as anyone that I went down this road, but it's been so fulfilling. And I've gotten so many great compliments from people and support. It's been a really great adventure.
You are so right there. I find that so many of the people that I get to talk to, the authors all agree. We're trying to do what we have been called to do and walk in that purpose and just be our best at all times. So I definitely understand that. Now, when it comes to the title of your book, Muse Yourself, can you tell us, did that come first, the title? Did it come first to you? Did it develop out of the writings? How did you come about that title?
Well, actually, what happened was I was writing the book, and the chapters were coming together, and the titles of the chapters are starting to come to me. Love yourself, trust yourself, be yourself, free yourself. And the word muse comes from me hanging around my wife's art studio a lot and having a lot of opinions about the artwork. So the word muse is kind of an affectionate word for me. And so I just thought Muse Yourself was a logical title for it.
And I find that when it's the right title, you kind of know. The same way that people say when you find your dress, when you find your car, you know. And it's so true. It just really kind of settles in your spirit a certain way. So I couldn't agree with you there more. Now, when it comes to the appropriate reader, I always ask it this way because most people have an understanding of this age group. Is your book appropriate for someone as young as high school? Or should they perhaps be college age or older?
Well, I think that college age or older is what I would recommend. But there are teenagers that are struggling that probably could read this book and get a lot out of it. I would encourage the parents to read it first. Make sure that you're okay with, because there are some tough subjects in there. So just make sure that you're okay with it first.
And I can definitely understand. I can definitely understand that, because you don't want to. You never know how something is going to settle with someone, or how it could trigger them in some way, shape, or form. And not that your book is triggering, but I remember I was working with, you are a former military, and I was talking to a gentleman about the 4th of July holiday coming up. And I said, I think people need to remember our veterans, not just our fur babies, during that time of year, because it can be triggering to those who have been, off to war. And he was like, Dr. Angela, thank you. No one seems to remember that. And it's like, absolutely. So I think that is very, very wise. Have that discussion about it. Now, when it comes to how to read your book, many times an author will help the reader along on the journey, right? You guys will suggest that we read it from cover to cover, literally page after page, or maybe chapter or section. Make sure that you're reading chapter 1 before chapter 2. Is there a particular way that's best to read your book in order to really get the all out of it?
Yes. It's actually a workbook. And what I want the readers to do is to read the first chapter, do the practice that's at the end of the first chapter, and then there's a meditation that you can either record it yourself so that you can listen to your own voice, or you can download it from my website. And then what I ask is that for that whole week, you listen to that meditation every day, and you consider what you've come up with in your exercise. And this allows a lot of time for your brain to incorporate the information and to sort through what your issues might be that are coming up. And so that's how I see people using the book. It's really put together beautifully with colored artwork from my wife, Lisa, and the illustrations are actually drawn by my daughter. So the whole workbook is a really high-quality product, and I think people enjoy writing in it and keeping it as a resource.
Now, I like the fact that you have made it not only a book to read, but the workbook portion of it as well, giving those exercises that people need to do. I know as a therapist, I give homework to folks. As a coach, I give homework to folks, because you're right. You really need to be able to apply what you've learned, and that's one of the better ways for many people to retain that information is if they can put it into use and absorb it into their day-to-day lives. Now, for some authors, there is a prompting that really, or a nudge that really gets them going in a particular direction, either to write or to include a certain aspect of a chapter, or in your case, an exercise that may be included there. Did you have little nudges along the way, or did you have these moments where it was kind of like a eureka or epiphany moment where it was like, oh, that's good, while you were still in the process?
Yes, I think that what I learned about myself is that I really want to help people, especially people who suffer from worry, fear, or panic attacks. I want to help them find a new mindset through awareness. So, when I was going to hypnotherapy training, we learned that children from 0 to 7 years old have theta brainwaves. Those are basically a state of hypnosis. And we know this instinctively because we say they're like sponges, but it's really true. They're creating and storing programs in their subconscious, programs that others teach them, like how to brush your teeth, and programs they develop themselves to manage, like a difficult social interaction or something. And if the child experiences excessive criticism or bullying or physical or mental abuse, the subconscious creates programs to protect that child. And these express themselves as emotions and behaviors. Hopefully, you outgrow the need for those protective programs. But they remain at the ready, and you'll find yourself acting them out unless you become aware of them and actively, consciously remove them. So these behaviors and emotions express themselves. We sometimes call it being triggered, like you were saying earlier. That's your clue that there's some work to be done. Not all subconscious programs are bad, just the ones that undermine your peace, your self-confidence, or your ability to enjoy your life. Do you know that some studies say that 95% of our day we are in our subconscious mind? So the power that we can access is getting into our conscious mind.
I cannot agree with you more. And I know that those of the listeners out there that also follow me on social media, they're definitely nodding their heads saying, yes, Dr. Angela tells us that all the time. I cannot reiterate how important that is. And Michelle, I am so glad that you are including this in your book, because when a lot of times people only hear this when we're talking about business, when we're talking about trying to manifest our wishes, our hopes, our dreams, and when we're praying to God and we don't understand why God isn't answering our prayers. But it has so much to do with our understanding of that childhood pour, and I talk about, people pouring into you. You are so right there. And if we do not grow out of them, we carry those ill-needed behaviors with us into adulthood. I'm telling you, you are sharing great information here, and I love that. Well, it is almost time for us to go to break, but I definitely want to pick your brain a little bit more, not only about your book, but about the healing arts as well. But before we do, let's go ahead and take our break now. With that being said, can you remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Title of my book is Muse Yourself, and you can purchase it at Amazon or www.hypnoticmiche.com. That's hypnoticmiche.com. Or my business website, which is www.hypnoticmiche.com.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. Hi, everyone. Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right. You can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know, which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative? I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Michelle Christie, and we're talking about her book, Muse Yourself. Now, Christy, one of the things that you mentioned, and just in case we have someone who's joining us a little bit late to the show, you said that you are in the healing arts. There may be someone out there who doesn't quite understand what you mean by that. So I want to ask it this way. Does that mean that you help people not only with prayer and meditation, but you help them with self-love and learning how to express themselves positively?
Yes. There's many ways of healing. So the healing arts, as I understand it, and there's probably a list longer than I could say, but there's music that heals. There's sound healing. There's healing through animals. So all these different modalities of healing are available, and I've just become so interested in exploring them. I got certified as a hypnotherapist, which was what introduced me to the healing arts about 5 years ago. And I was actually looking for some emotional healing for myself. But during my hypnotherapy training, I just saw so much potential and wisdom in using the subconscious mind to heal. In my practice, I noticed that no matter how a problem manifested in someone's life, the first thing we had to do was get in touch with the energy of love, because love is such a healing energy, and love for self is such an important starting point.
It really is. Now, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to kind of do a follow-up question with you, and that is, you use the word meditations. So many people are just now starting to realize how important prayer and meditation is in one's personal life. It isn't something that you just have to do, in church on Sunday, or just making sure that you say grace over your food before you eat, but really spending that quiet contemplative time. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you address meditation, and you said you can download them? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, I see it as prayer to me, because I grew up in church, and prayer to me always seemed like something I did when I was asking, or I had some kind of something on my heart I needed to share or ask for. And meditation, on the other hand, is kind of the other side of that coin, where you're receiving. So you're just quieting your mind and receiving. And the kind of meditations that I put in my workbook, they have a subconscious element to them. So in each meditation, I bring attention to a part of your body, an energy center or a chakra, and I introduce imagery, what I call an elemental spirit. It's just something for the subconscious to anchor to attract the attention of your subconscious, because the subconscious loves imagery and color. The more imaginative the image is, the more the subconscious retains it. So these meditations are meant to lift you up. I ask the readers to listen to the meditation every day for a week, because repetition is how we learn and how our beliefs are created. Because a belief is just a thought we think over and over again.
Absolutely. And when you were saying that how important it is with repetition, I don't know what the teachers do in schools nowadays, but I know that when I was in elementary school, I remember sitting there when it was time for us to learn multiplication, and we would just recite those times tables, as they used to call them then, and everyone was able to recite them, and we all knew them, within the same period of time, because everyone was learning at the same pace, everyone was speaking it in the same voice, so to speak, at the same time, and it really, I felt that it was absolutely effective, and I can still rattle it off now because of that repetition. You're so right there. Now, did you have a a favorite part or favorite section of the book? I sometimes don't ask this question because authors will tell me, Dr. Angela, every chapter is like my baby, so I love every chapter of the book. And it's like, of course you do. But when it comes to really we know that you have to pour your heart into writing the pages of every book. With that being said, did you find that there was any chapter or section that you enjoyed or you were really happy to include that for the reader?
Well, it's funny you asked that. There is a chapter for me. It's the Free Yourself chapter. And I think it's my favorite because it brought to mind a favorite childhood story, a joyful childhood story of mine. And I start each chapter with a personal story. So it's just a fun chapter. I go on a kind of rampage of joy, and it just leaves you feeling great.
And you mentioned a word there, joy. I don't think that people are really feeling joy the way that they used to, or at least that's not a word that many people are using. They're happy, but they're not feeling joy. And I think that anything that can get us, in tune with that place is definitely a needed resource in our lives. So I couldn't agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more there. Now, I want to kind of shift gears just a little bit, and I love asking our successful authors, for our aspiring authors out there, the next few questions. And the one question I ask everyone is about how you chose to publish your book. Every author has to decide, do I self-publish? Do I use some professionals in some way, shape, or form? Or do I pitch this to the big guys and use a publishing house? How did you determine which way was best for you?
Well, I really was looking at you probably are familiar with Louise Hay. She's got the Hay House group that does good work with the healing arts and spirituality. And they have a publishing company, Balboa Press. And I just felt like I was part of that family before I even, interacted with them, just because I was so in tune with the message, the message of love, the message of loving yourself, the message of, being gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself. So I just felt like I was part of that family. And so I self-published with them. I don't know if that's called self-publishing, but I contacted them and we worked out a publishing deal.
And I am finding that more and more people are using the services of those self-publishing houses that are really helping. They have the services available should you need editing or illustrations or a cover or whatever, but they still allow you to retain your rights, your creativity, and your expression over your work. So yeah, that is awesome, and I'm so glad that you went that route as well. She is a wonderful person to listen to, very, very inspirational as well. Now, when it comes to determining how you end up with your expression along that vein, was it difficult to determine what the cover should look like? Was it difficult to determine how long the book should be? What is that process like? I know there's someone going, I don't know if the book should be 30 pages or 100 pages, if the cover should be simple or if it should be complex. How did you make those decisions?
Well, I actually didn't make those decisions. I just kind of started writing. As far as how long the chapters would be or how long the book would be, or the only thing I knew from the start was that I wanted it to be, I wanted to have a personal story to start out each chapter to kind of let the reader know where I was coming from. And then I talk about the subject, and then I have an exercise for the reader, and then a meditation. That I knew I wanted it to be in that format. Mm-hmm. The actual writing was a very stream of thought situation, and then a lot of editing. And then as far as the cover, I asked my daughter to do the illustrations, and she came through like a champ. I just love the illustrations she did, and I gave her nothing except for just the title of the book and the titles of the chapters, and she did the illustrations. So I think they're really awesome.
I love how it always comes together. You know, when it is meant to be, it always falls together quite appropriately, quite beautifully, and it ends up being a project that one can be proud of. So I love that. Now we have about a minute left in the program, but I want to kind of open the floor back up. And for someone who is very mindful of others, and you too want to enlighten, inspire, and empower, I want to ask you an open-ended question, and that is, do you have any final words of inspiration or empowerment that you can leave with my listeners today?
Absolutely. The thing I would like listeners to take away today is that it matters what you think about. So think about good things. Thoughts create emotions, and emotions drive your behaviors. And then behaviors influence your life. So think about things that make you feel good about yourself. Be deliberate about creating the life you want. And look, a seed cannot grow into a plant unless it breaks down first. So if you're in a place of pain right now, understand that you're standing on the precipice of a breakthrough. In my book, I lay out simple steps. Not easy, but it takes commitment, but it's waiting for you when you're ready to upgrade your subconscious programs and take your life up to the next level.
Oh, that was perfect. I love it. Such wonderful and gracious last words. I love it. I love it. Well, Michelle, Christy, thank you so much for spending time with me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I have enjoyed my time with you today. And listeners, Muse Yourself, of course, is available on Amazon or where books are sold. But Michelle, can you remind us, what is your website?
My website is www.hypnoticsol.com.
I love it. Thank you again for being a guest today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Angela. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And listeners, thank you for spending some time with us here today as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with me today, and I thank you for doing so. With that being said, may you remember that God is always smiling upon you. May you take His grace and His mercy with you everywhere that you go. And remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone.